Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. We'd greatly appreciate it. We have Cassidy Duncan on the podcast. She's a weightlifter. She's also a vocalist and a ukulele player, which I know is combining two of our most popular genres on the show. She's also a registered nurse, and she's coming to us all the way from Canada. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Cassidy, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what inspired and motivated you to make that healthy and fit lifestyle change?
Okay, that's a huge question for me. So sorry if I dive
No
into
worries. Take as much time as you want. Yeah.
I have to give a little bit of context because fitness actually has been a pretty key component in my life for a couple of years now, but it pretty much started when I was younger. I was actually pretty heavy. It's like the chubby kid in class. I also grew up in a really small town. So when you're the chubby kid in a small town, you kind of stand out. You know what I mean? So I, got made fun of a lot, bullied a lot. So when I grew up and I actually lost some weight, people were starting to be nice to me now. And I was like, okay, so at a young age, I kind of made the connection of oh, the thinner you are, the you kind of associate that with love from people, right? So, no surprise when I had an eating disorder in high school, and that was, really difficult. But with my family and my friends, I got through it. And then in university, when I decided to go into nursing, my first year was so eye-opening because you really learn about the body and your bodily functions and just what what your systems can do for you and what happens when you maltreat them and what happens when you don't respect what your body can do for you. And yeah, it definitely, I was looking back at what I was putting myself through in high school, and I was just shaking my head I can't believe, thankfully I didn't have any long-term repercussions or consequences. I'm really thankful that that wasn't the case for me, but it's unfortunately not the case for everybody. So I am really, thankful for what I went through at least. And yeah, and then through there, it was through university, I kind of struggled a little bit, you hear about the freshman 15 and trying to balance social life. And I was also working in school too.
How many kilos is the freshman 15 in Canada then?
I kilos or pounds, because I'd say probably 15 pounds sometimes.
Yeah,
But for me, it was probably a solid 8 to 10, which on my frame is pretty significant. So yeah, I got pretty heavy again. And one thing that I will say, and some people will agree and some people won't, and I used to heavily disagree with this statement, but people who've developed eating disorders or body dysmorphia or anything like that, that's kind of something that never truly goes away. It's kind of always there. It's always in your head. It's, something you're constantly, when you say you've recovered, it's kind of you're constantly in recovery. That's how it is for me anyway. I have my good days, I have my bad days, but I'm constantly fighting the urge to put myself down or to try and view myself in that negative light like I used to. So
you've learned the management better, I think is what people should say then.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot easier to say recovery, but it's recovery is an ongoing process and things will set you back and there's triggers. And definitely weight gain for me, feeling, it wasn't even the scale. I actually gave up completely on weighing myself ever. Again, but for me, it was feeling tight in my clothes and actually just looking at photos of myself. I would go out with some friends and there'd be a photo and I was like, is that actually what I look like? And then I got back into fitness again. A good friend of mine was in the process of getting her body pump, to be a body pump instructor, which is Good Life Fitness has these group classes. And that was my first time ever weightlifting was a class. So I was, kind of interested, and there was more research coming out saying that weightlifting is actually it can be much better for weight loss than just cardio, right? So because I was a cardio bunny and that's all I would do is cardio, 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 and then I started body pump, and then I got results almost immediately. And then after body pump, I did a training program that was 5 days a week at the gym. And that was super intimidating, but I did it. And then I've just been a gym rat since. totally like don't even go to the women's side anymore because there's never any equipment in there. So, and I just do it and like mind my own business and yeah.
I love to break the stereotype that, a lot of women have where, if they touch one weight, they're just going to, put on 50 pounds of muscle. It's gotten a lot better with Instagram, I'd say the last 5 years. But I mean, coming from having an eating disorder to all of a sudden, being into this weightlifting, did you ever have that fear where you were afraid that you were just going to gain a lot of weight? And even if you didn't have that fear, I mean, I bet you hear that all the time. What do you like to say to people when they ask you that?
So I guess to start off, I'd say when it comes to the fear of gaining weight, whether it's muscle or fat or whatever the ratio is, yeah, like that's I think someone with an eating disorder is like that can always be a possibility of a trigger. For me, I actually like lost inches and like I was getting smaller on the first like the first program I was on. Um, and it wasn't like counting macros. There was like no nutrition component to it. So I was just kind of doing like intuitive eating. I didn't even really know, like when people were saying like, oh, what are your macros? I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I just like eat what I want, like, but like within a healthy limit. But then essentially then after I was finished that program, I kind of started doing my own thing. I met people at the gym who's Ashley. I met Ashley, which is, you've had her on your podcast. Her and I are like really, really close friends. She's like my go-to gym person all the time. And we worked out together as well. Even before she decided to compete, like we were working out together. And then I think that's when I started putting on weight that wasn't just muscle anymore. And that was hard. Like kind of bulking, and everyone's like, oh, it's normal, but it's like, I did not like it. I did not like feeling like it was great to be able to lift heavy. And there was probably like a month where I felt like strong and I was like, yeah, I love that I'm lifting heavy. And I love that, I can like, almost bench a plate now and I can like almost squat 2 plates. Like I was like, heck yeah. But I was like, is the strength component for me worth the issues I was having mentally with watching myself get bigger? And I kind of had to make a call to start prioritizing my nutrition way more and like kind of finding that balance. So so for me, that was like a struggle for sure. And when people approach me about it and be like, oh, like I'm worried about gaining too much muscle or anything like that, it's like, I guess my first thing would always be like, well, what's your goal with fitness, right? Like, what do you want? If it's to lose weight, then it's like for you to be able to put on a bunch of muscle, like it takes a lot more than just picking up some dumbbells for a week. It's a process. I've been working out, whether it's like body pump or whatever, for like 4 years now, and it's only been the last year and a half that I've really put on muscle. And like visible like muscle, you know what I mean? So it's not just like for like new beginners who want to get into fitness. It's definitely a lot more than just working out for a week or two. It's a journey, really. And that's why you hear people in the fitness industry say that all the time, journey, journey, journey. It's because it is. It's starting from one point and working your way somewhere. But people focus so much on the end goal that they don't appreciate the in between. So
I couldn't agree with you more on that. I mean, I always love to tell the story. I was in college, getting bigger and stronger. One of the things is that I had a friend who would always come up to me and say, like, Ryan, you're getting bigger and stronger. I kind of want to go to the gym with you, but I'm afraid I don't want to get too bulky. And then finally one night I said, look, the amount of weight that you have, I mean, the amount of weight that your purse weighs when you go and carry it around when we go to clubs, when we go out to eat, weighs more than a lot of the dumbbells in the gym. And you're not getting any amount of muscle from lugging that thing around 24/7. It's all about just realizing too. I always say, what is the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to get healthier. So it's also the confidence boost that it gives you alone. Could you kind of describe how that confidence boost really affected your day-to-day life? Because I know for guys it really affects it, but for women, I think the confidence boost just adds even more to them just because it gives them that extra added like drive and determination in their daily lives.
Yeah, I think it kind of was a process for me because it really depended on who I was dating at the time before I met my husband. So the first, I would say there was a relationship I was in where my partner was not comfortable with me gaining muscle. Like it was like total turn off for them, like not interested. So I guess, that kind of made me not want to focus on fitness anymore. And I know it's like, that shouldn't be your reasoning, but it's like when your partner is kind of like, I'm not super into it. It's kind of, you don't feel confident anymore in your body. But then when I kind of went off on my own and I was, kind of dating myself, I guess, and, focusing on me, yeah, that's when I noticed like how I felt so good when I started seeing muscle and I started like seeing like flexing and I was like, oh, there's a little bicep there now, or
Yeah.
like there's a little bit of an ab line, or like little things like that for sure is a huge confidence boost. You feel even just feeling good in your clothes is such a nice feeling. Like, and at first it was harder kind of feeling my clothes get tighter, but it's like I knew that it was muscle and I knew that it was me fueling my body and pushing myself and attaining, goals you know, that I never thought I would want to attain, So
Yeah,
definitely.
it's definitely one of those benefits that I love to bring up. But I also love to make a statement. If you were to go to the gym and there's 100 people in there, there are 100 different ways as to how those people got into shape. Whether it comes down
Mhm.
to, I mean, their diet, their nutrition, their training, how many reps they do, what exercise they do. There are so many little things that add up to the package that people end up seeing. And I always love to say, if you were to go up to someone and say like, hey, this body part of yours looks amazing. What do you do for that body part specifically? What works best for them 99% of the time isn't going to work as good for you. Was that a struggle for you when you were starting out, sort of finding out what worked best for your body and what gave you the best results?
Yeah, I'd say like I was constantly comparing myself to like girls on Instagram and like that's, you follow them for like motivation, but it ends up actually putting you down a lot sometimes, because you're like, oh, I'm like doing all these hip thrusts. Why can't my glutes grow like that? Or like, I'm like working my abs every day. Why can't I get abs? And then that and everyone's body, everyone's metabolism is different. Everyone's even like something like women with their hormones, right? Like if you have just naturally higher estrogen levels or higher testosterone levels than other women, like it's totally going to affect everything. And my biggest thing too is Ashley being like it was nice to actually work out with another woman because her and I it felt more of like a body positive inspiration to look up to. Whereas when I was working with a lot of guys, it's hard because it's like men just genetically have more muscle fibers than women. So it's kind of like, you know, sometimes it can be a little bit more of a struggle for women to gain the same amount of muscle as men, and it's not to put women down at all. It's just, unfortunately, that's just
Yep.
biology. So, there was a couple of guys at the gym I was working out with too, and it was fun and stuff. But after a while, it was totally a game changer when you can actually like work out with someone who's kind of similar goals than you, and that can like push you in a healthy way. And Ashley was definitely that person for me. So.
Yeah, in college I had a friend just like that too, and yeah, it really adds the motivation. I mean, especially the days when you'd work out maybe by yourself as opposed to working out with someone else. I always recommend trying to find a training partner just because it is one of those things where it really can help you out a lot. But I also always love to ask. I mean, everyone always has, like we were talking about, always has different genetics, and I always love to ask. What was one body part when you were starting that really took off that you didn't need to train as much? And then everyone always has that body part too that really just lags behind, that they really have to train to overdrive to get to catch up. What is that body part for you?
I would say, like, even because right now I'm in competition prep, so I have a show coming up, and it's like something I've really noticed for myself. I find my shoulders have always been the easiest to develop. My shoulders and my back, like, it's funny because a lot of women actually have a hard time with their
I was
shoulders,
gonna say that's our number one answer for women is shoulders that they need to
but
work on. Yeah.
but for me, that was the easiest to develop. Like my shoulders, like just started capping really nicely, and my rear delts are coming in, and it's like my back is like because I'm going in for bikini, and it's at a point where my coach is like, okay, we can't work out your back anymore. Like, or if we do, it's like maintenance. Like we'll do a couple pull ups and chin ups, and then that's it, because your back's like you're starting to come off as figure on your back, so we need to chill out there. And same with my shoulders. So and for the body part like hardest to come in, minus core, because core is a lot of nutrition. It's a lot of like dropping body fat, so I feel kind of cheated when I say that, but I'd say my legs. It doesn't matter how hard I work them, like even right now, like as I'm dropping weight, I find that I know they're going to be the last that come in, like finding definition. Like I have like a good glute separation, but hamstrings and like my quads are a little bit better, but my hamstrings, like we've had to build those from scratch. So
I completely understand. I mean, for me, I mean, my back is just like you too. Where I mean, I could train it, once every 6 months, and it would still look good. That's the only thing that I say on my body that looks like I could be like a guy bodybuilder. Everything else, for some reason, it's my back. But I'm also 6'3", so I mean, my entire lower body, yeah, it just needs to be trained into overdrive. I mean, and like I said, like I told you before, I had that pitcher's body, so you had to be long and lengthy, basically, and just. So yeah, the legs, I mean, I gotta do it twice a week, and it's my least favorite day, and you gotta get it over with. I mean, I actually have to do a leg workout after I'm done talking with you. So if I seem a little depressed towards the end as we're wrapping things up, it's because I know what's gonna happen as soon as I stop doing this.
Oh,
So
it's okay. I did legs yesterday,
oh,
so I'm like, I did chest today, and like chest, I love chest is one of my favorite days because it's like more about power, less about cardio. And that's the thing, legs just feels like cardio, like extended amounts of cardio.
well, and my biggest pet peeve too is I've had so many guests come on where they say calves are just the one thing that's naturally they're just genetically blessed with. I hate those people because calves are the one thing where you really can't work them. I mean, you can tone them up a little bit, but you cannot. You're either born with good calves or you're not born. Like we had one lady who I asked the same question, and she put her leg up on the table, and I was like, okay, your calves are bigger than my thighs. We're done here. I was like, we're done. I'm done talking to you. Yeah. So I hate those people where you're just like, you've never done anything for that a day in your life. Like I always say, I could inject pure muscle into my calves and it wouldn't matter. I mean, they still wouldn't gain a bit of anything. So I always love asking that because everyone's body's so different. And is this going to be your first competition that you're going to, or is this?
Yeah,
oh,
this
wow.
is my first time competing. Yeah.
So what finally pushed you over the edge to finally say, hey, doing a competition, this is something that I really think would be nice?
I actually used to be totally against it. Like from like the medical point of view, I looked at that and I was like, that's dumb. Like, why would someone put their body through something like that? I'm like, that is so not healthy. Like for a group of people who are trying to represent the healthiest, fittest looking body, they're really not that healthy by stage time. But I kind of ate my words. So just to give context, with me being a nurse, I work strict nights where I'm working right now. So a lot of my social time, and I work in community, so I work by myself. So a lot of the social kind of circles I was getting was at the gym. And just like the more I was getting some progress and gaining muscle, and even like being around Ashley, who when she decided she wanted to compete, I was super supportive and really happy for her. And so even though she was getting ready to go into contest prep, her and I over the summer were still working out together. And then all of a sudden, other people that I met at the gym were like, oh, great, talking to Ashley about competing. And then on that subject, they'd look at me and they'd be like, actually, you would do really well too in bikini. And I was like, I want muscle. You girls don't have muscle. Like, me just being a little bit ignorant there, obviously, but because there are some bikini girls who are a little bit leaner than others, and like I was looking at it, and so for a while, for like months, people were like, you should compete, we think you'd do well, like you could do it. And then Ashley started her contest prep, and I was seeing all the changes she was going through, and I was so inspired and motivated, and she was doing so well and working so hard, and I decided to go on like an 8-week, just like this guy on Instagram was like selling these like 8-week these like programs that was also nutrition. And I had never focused on nutrition with myself before. And I started seeing how my body was changing. Like I was leaning out but I was like actually starting to see more muscle definition. And my coach that I have now is good friends with Ashley's coach. And he approached me and was like jokingly like, so when are you going to compete? And I'm like, oh, I've heard that so many times now. But him being a coach, he like mentioned that, and we chatted, and all of my concerns, I addressed them, and we talked about it. And I did my own research and was like, you know what? Spoke with my husband, Jordan, and I was like, I think I really want to do this. And he's like, I think, I'm supportive. Like, I want you to, be happy and accomplish your goals. So then I was just like, hey, I'm doing it.
Yeah, and that's awesome because I mean, I also too work nights. I'm at UPS and I'm a supervisor, so I totally get the nights where I mean your social life kind of is drained because if you're doing stuff during the day and then you're working at nights, I mean there's no time really for any of that, so I totally
Yeah.
understand that. But one of the things that I really just was blown back by when I started this podcast, because I didn't really know too much about it, is for so many of these competitors, posing is the hardest thing for them. I mean, it's
Oh,
harder than their nutrition, it's harder than the working out. What has posing been like for you getting started in it?
it's been it's been it's been bad.
Yeah.
Like, not to put myself down, but I am by no means a graceful woman. I'm pretty like chill, laid back, but I I'm a performer. So being on stage I'm super comfortable with. Like I can be in front of like thousands of people and I'm fine. Like, not that I've ever been in front of thousands of people, but I mean just I'm fine with like being in front of people and being on a stage. In 5-inch heels and doing a routine, that to me was giving me anxiety. So I actually by 13 weeks, so last week I started posing classes, and I'm like continuously doing posing classes, and it's been a struggle, but like I find every week I'm getting better, getting more fluid, getting more natural, not trying to rush it. And my coach, like every time like we're in between sets, he's like, "Okay, hit your front pose." Like he's really good at like reminding me and giving me cues, and yeah, and I'm really excited to be working with my posing coach too. She's awesome. She's local. Her name's Sylvia. She's great. She's super funny, and like we also get along really well, and our personalities match. So it makes it a lot easier because I feel way more comfortable and less nervous. And yeah, so I would say posing is definitely like way worse. Like has been the biggest challenge for me over nutrition for sure.
That's just definitely one of those things that I never realized until I started this. But yeah, that's the answer that we've heard all the time. And I mean, I always like to say my second health and fitness guest that I had on, she was actually the tallest ever bikini competitor. She was 6'3", and then so in those heels she was like 6'9". So I was like, okay, yeah, how did you even? Because being 6'3" myself, I was like, I could never be graceful. Just being that height, just naturally when you're that tall, gracefulness just doesn't come into it. But yeah, it's definitely just one of those things that you really have to learn. But I always love to say, just being ready to get into a prep, you have to get into such a good amount of shape, and it takes so much time and dedication and hard work. But going into a prep, notching things up to a whole extreme level, how has that change been like for you? I mean, I know you started recently, but how has that change been like for you nutrition wise?
So it was a little bit easier going into prep because I had done that 8-week cut ahead of time. So and with that was really strict meal plan and meal prep as well. Like and my carbs were like almost non-existent. It was like almost like a altered keto, like, so I was on that for 8 weeks already. And then I went on a trip. I went to BlizzCon, which was like so much fun. And yeah.
I was gonna say, I thought, because I saw your Instagram and I saw you had that tattoo, and I was like, I wonder if she's gonna still have that tattoo on that you had on your shoulder.
Oh,
yeah, yeah. I was scrolling through your Instagram before we came on, and I was like, oh yeah. When you first came on, I was like, oh, she doesn't have that tattoo. It must have been one of those removable ones or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. It was. It was like I was doing like a kind of like really casual cosplay. But yeah, so I came back from that trip, and that's when I started prep. So my prep total is going to be 22 weeks. So we're down to 12 weeks now. Yeah, it's a long time. But honestly, the nutrition wasn't that bad because if anything, he actually upped my carbs from the meal plan I was on prior, which was nice. Because when you're used to only being on half a cup of carbs a day, it's like half a cup of oats or half a cup of quinoa. And then he now says I can have half a cup per meal, which is 5 meals a day. I was like, holla freaking dude. And I am like, so, and now it's been since after Christmas that we've cut my carbs and we're doing carb cycling now. So
yeah. I mean, I don't know what I would do without carbs, because for my job, I mean, when I do my 8-hour shifts, I walk because I'm constantly in motion. Like I just supervise people, but I still get about, a good 20 miles of walking in every day, plus the working out that I do. So, I mean, I basically have to, just swallow carbs upon carbs just in order to not be like 105 pounds by the time, I'm done. Because so whenever I see or hear some of these diets that these bodybuilders have to go into, I'm just like,
and like you're always hungry. Like I'm always hungry. You like my husband's like, you're eating, like you're still hungry. I was like, okay, imagine for like it's gonna be 22 weeks, never really feeling full. Like you're constantly eating, but like you'll feel maybe like you'll be kind of satisfied
for like 5 minutes.
Like 5 minutes later, you're like, oh no. And
Hmm.
then you're like 1 second breakfast,
Yeah.
So,
And then also people don't realize the amount of fluids that you have to drink as well. The amount of water that you have to chug.
oh
I mean, I
yeah.
know you're drinking it right now, but people, I mean, there's always those guys or girls that just go to the gym and they just have their gallons of milk or water with them, basically that they're just chugging all throughout their. Yeah, and that's one of those. That's the one thing that I really didn't like too when I really got into it was that how many times you're gonna have to wake up in the middle of the night too and go to the bathroom, every like
Yeah.
2 hours because your body's just trying to get rid of all of that water that you
And I
drink.
purposely, for that reason, like
Mhm.
if I know, like, a couple hours before, like even if it's like 2 hours before I know I have to go to sleep, because like I find my bladder, like I know my bladder really well. Like if I drink, like I'm drinking this glass of water now, probably within half an hour, I'm gonna like have to
Yep.
go, and
Hmm.
it's like, so yeah, right now we're not on like crazy water restrictions or like goals. Like I think he just wants me to drink like, like obviously enough. Like I try and drink like 2 glasses of water a meal at least, and like like quite a bit when I'm doing my cardio and stuff. It's not until the end where you do like the water manipulation and you're doing like I think he wants me to like drink like 8 to 9 liters a day, the like 2 weeks before, and then we cut to like 2 liters a day, like peak week.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. I don't know how I'm gonna drink that much water, but my coach is like, "Oh, trust me, like it's gonna feel like a lot, and then we're gonna cut your water to like 2 liters, and then you're gonna be like, I'm so thirsty."
For all of our American audience out here, I will use the conversion down below and show you what 8 to 9 liters looks like for gallons for the U.S. But yeah, I mean it's really just fascinating what entails with that. Now I always love to ask all my guests. I mean, you haven't experienced it yet, but as you can see, I mean, I'm a very pale individual myself. I don't want to say anything, but you also have a very fair skin tone like me. What
Yeah.
are you excited when you get that tan on for the first time? Because we have so many guests that come on and talk about, like you see muscles that you never even knew that you had. Everything really seems to pop out. Is that an exciting thing that you're looking forward to? But then we also have people that say, like I hate it when that happens. How do you think you'll react when you first get that tan?
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to like see the definition because it's your hard work,
Mhm.
right? It's like it's like I view that as, you know, and this is the thing with bodybuilding, right? Like it's an art. Like you are the art. You are working, your body is the canvas, and this whole prep, you are constantly manipulating, changing things to make this picture perfect version of yourself that will be judged in front of people. It's a very selfish like sport in that way where it's like it is all about you. So with the tanning, it's like it's just adding it's to see the definition and adding to that. And um coming from the cosplay community, there's I'm not too sure if you're aware of
Yeah.
how sensitive the cosplay community can be
Yeah.
times with things, but I remember like reposting some bodybuilders, and I've had people approach me being like, "Oh, that's blackface." And I'm like, "Excuse me?" Like, whoa, yeah. I've had like straight up people like try and argue with me that bodybuilding tanning is like not okay, and why are they doing that? And to try and sit there and explain like it's not to, to offend culture. It's
I would
not
say back to him. I'd say back to him. That's more like Greek face.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, for me, like I'm like mentally preparing myself
Mhm.
for because like I'm friends with a lot of
Yeah.
cosplayers, and like I started my Instagram actually was starting with a big huge cosplay
Mhm.
following,
Yep.
so, and I still have people who've stuck around since then. But I'm like prepared.
Yeah.
That's like the one thing I'm a little nervous about when I get tanned is for that, but it's to me, even my like Jordan, my husband's like, he's like, don't
Yeah.
worry about that. Like, don't let that consume your thoughts for even a second. Like, those people will think what they want. And if they choose to ignore the reasoning or, be ignorant to that subject, then, there's nothing you can do,
I
so.
was gonna say that's the first time we've ever heard that from anyone that they were afraid because for most people, I mean, they don't end up looking at different skin color. I mean, they just look really, really tan. So that's, I mean, but
Mhm.
yeah, I can totally understand where that might come from.
The internet.
Whoa, well, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's that goes without being said. Yeah, just how the internet is these
But
days.
you won't really get that in the bodybuilding community or the
Mhm.
fitness community. Like no one says anything, and that's why I was shocked when I did have people from the cosplay community like bring something up because they're two different worlds that very rarely collide, like rarely collide.
Yeah,
So
you might have like one of those bodybuilders dress up as like She-Hulk or the Hulk or whatever to one of those things, and
yeah.
that's about as far as it goes. Yeah, where I
Mhm.
sometimes see that. So yeah, 100%. But I mean, you're also a vocalist and you play the ukulele, which I mean is a unique instrument in of itself. How long have you been a vocalist, and how long before you finally adapted playing the ukulele?
I've been a vocalist probably since I can't even remember. Like I've been singing since I was a little girl. Like I come from both sides of my family are extremely musical. My dad has a band. He's a drummer, he's a singer, he plays a little bit of guitar. My brother pretty much can pick up any instrument and just master it. And he's also a very talented musician and actually has his own side project as well that he's been working on for a long time and doing so well and released his own EP and everything. And yeah, he's like doing super well for himself.
You give
So
me his name and I'll have him on to help promote his EP too. I mean, I love
yeah,
having
that
my
would be
bands on.
awesome. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Collide, so it's Coll. And then it's like the double dots. Wow, I
Oh
can't
yeah.
like I know the name in
The
French.
umlauts, yeah, or whatever they
Yeah,
are, yeah.
yeah. And then DE.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited for him. But yeah, I've been singing for a long time. Bryce is his name. We started playing at bars together as like an acoustic duo, and then it wasn't until I moved to Toronto that when we separated, and I still wanted to release content on my YouTube, and I wanted to, have a little bit of support. And without my brother being my musician anymore, I took up the ukulele because I heard it was actually really easy to learn. I also have really small hands, so guitar was very difficult, and I tried guitar, but as soon as my brother let me borrow his ukulele for like 2 weeks, and I was like, yeah.
Yep.
And I went out and I bought one, and I've been playing for like probably close to 2 years now.
That's awesome, and that also brings me. I mean, I never knew this. I took a music class in college just for fun because it was it was like the history of rock and roll, and they were always talking about the reason why Jimi Hendrix was such a great guitar player is that he had such large hands that he was able to grip the guitar at different. So when you brought up the small hands thing, I was like, yeah, and that makes totally perfect sense. And playing the ukulele, I mean, I love seeing those. I mean, it kind of gives you that sort of Hawaiian feel when people are playing it when it comes on. But what is your favorite song to sing when you're performing?
I would say like when I'm performing like with me and my ukulele, I always love playing Can't Help Falling in Love from Elvis. Like
that is a
that
great
song
one.
is so beautiful and it's
Yes.
really easy to play and everyone knows it. So it's like one of those songs that people can sing along with. When I was a registered nurse at a long-term care facility, so like an old age home, nursing home. On nights that it wasn't really busy, I'd actually bring my ukulele and
I bet
play.
they go crazy for that one. The old people.
Oh
Do,
my
yeah.
God, yeah, exactly, because it's like their time,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that one's really fun to play. Somewhere Over the Rainbow is always nice
Yeah.
because there's that version where it crosses over with What a Wonderful World, which is a really good rendition as well. I mean, I love learning anything that's like Evanescence or Linkin Park because they're like my go-tos as well.
I had a band on here that opened up for Linkin Park for a show, and they said
Oh,
that was one of the best experiences they've ever had in their life. And I was like, yeah,
I
that
bet,
definitely
I
would be,
bet.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
100%.
jealous.
Yeah, I was too when I heard that. I was like, yeah, Linkin Park, yeah, huge Linkin Park guy myself. I mean, my workout songs, that's a good chunk of it. But I've always loved to say, bodybuilding should have like a competition thing where you could do sort of like a beauty pageant thing where like you could do your vocalist thing then where you could sing. And because we had another girl in here who was an opera singer, and I was like, okay, those are talents that would be really cool to see that happen. But they don't have a talent section. But I've always said for the guys that would be interesting to see too. I've always said too for the guys because the girls have it so much harder in bodybuilding. If they had made the guys come out in those heels and walk out there, you would break the internet. And first of all, I mean that would be hilarious. So just
Yeah.
anything that they could do.
It feels, man. I'm like a baby giraffe still. That's something yeah.
Do you do the thing where you have to now like vacuum in heels, which is what a lot of people say that they do, or when they do like some housework, they have their heels on
Yeah,
too just to get used to it?
every day I try and wear them, whether it's like doing dishes or just walking around. It's like 5-inch heels or
Yeah.
like even when I got married, I purposely didn't get really big heels because I was like, I don't want to be tripping down the aisle, and so that was my first time. Like when I got my competition shoes, that was my first time ever wearing heels that high in my entire life. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I made a mistake yesterday. I had a girl from Texas on, and I said, "So, have you ever had any experience with high heels?" And then I regret that as soon as I said, "Because like, of course she's from Texas," and she's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I wear them every day." And I was like, "Oh yeah," I was like, "You're from Texas. I totally forgot that. My apologies."
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that the heels is a very, 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 very undervalued thing that a lot of people don't realize when it comes to how difficult it can be. But now, the two questions that I always love to ask, probably my favorite questions that I ask all of our health and fitness guests. I mean, for me, when I started working out, getting bigger and stronger, there are so many positive things in college, but one of the negative things is that you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of pickle jars. I mean, I'm still at home with my parents for the next couple of months, and every single time they come home with groceries, I got to lift the car into the driveway. Has that been a similar experience with you or people that you might know, or especially being a nurse, where people just assume based on the way that you look and they know that you're competing in bodybuilding, they just assume that you can do favors like that for them?
So it hasn't been until recently that I find that I've been like starting to show more muscle
Mhm.
definition. So I can't say that I've had like jokingly the people who are close in my
Mhm.
life would like kind of poke fun at it. Like even my husband would be, kind of jokingly say things, but very playful,
Mhm.
like never, any like malicious intent. My mom's the same way, like, she'll be like, "Ah, show off those muscles"
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But in terms of like moving stuff, I actually offer. For me, I like feeling
Well,
strong. I
she's
like
Canadian too, everyone.
yeah. So like, well, I'll be at my in-laws' house and they'll need someone to like move up extra chairs if we're having a big dinner, and I'll be like, "Yeah, I'll go with Jordan and we're moving all this furniture." And they're like, "Oh, no, 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 no. Like we'll get another guy. We'll get another guy." And I'm like, "Nah. Nah, I got it. I got it."
Yeah.
So kind of like almost the reverse. I'll
Yeah.
sometimes put myself in situations where like I want to help, and
Yeah.
and if I know I can, I will. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I get a lot of playful comments now
Oh,
though.
well, believe me,
Like,
I mean, when I used to be a little bit bigger, I mean, I've lost a little bit after college just because, working and, doing this is, I still work out, 3 or 4 times a week. But I just remember when I would go sometimes sleeveless, or not sleeveless, but just like the low cut, where I would be at bars and then random drunk girls would just come up to me and start feeling my arms. And I'd be like, "Oh, okay, that's my arm, by the way." And then they'd be like, "Oh my
yeah,
God, check out this,
space.
Becca," or whatever. And
Yeah,
I'd be like, "Oh, all right, it's cool or whatever." But yeah, it's just getting used to that took a while. But yeah, I mean, I can remember last summer, every other weekend, a friend texted me being like, "Oh, hey, Ryan, you free today? Like, I need help moving my stuff." And then I was like, "Okay, we're gonna go out for lunch then afterwards." Then that's what I'd always tell them.
yeah.
And I said
And I
it's on you too. And then they're like, "Oh, okay, no worries." So yeah,
and I didn't realize too, like the last couple times, like I've been out, like obviously I can't drink, but like going out to bars and stuff, like I don't know what it is about guys and wanting girls to arm wrestle, but damn, that is like a
that
fetish
yeah,
somewhere. Cause like
yeah.
every time, like,
Hmm.
oh, arm wrestle, let's go. I want to, and like here I am, like, really, guys, like,
Yeah.
come on.
I know. I know, like, see, I'm one of those guys where if I see a muscular girl, I just say like, "Oh wow," I don't say anything, but I'll just in my mind I'll be like, "Wow, she really works out. That's really, really." Or if
Yeah,
she's like walking by, I'll say like, "By the way, great job, keep it up," or whatever. Like I'm not, and then I've seen it all the time. All the guys go like, "Oh, you want to arm wrestle?" Or whatever it is. It's like, dude, what are you trying to like prove your masculinity? I think by
yeah,
arm wrestling a muscle. So yeah, it is really,
yeah. And
really
then I'll
dumb.
get like bigger guys wanting to arm wrestle me, and I'm like,
It's like, dude,
not
yeah,
I'm not an idiot.
yeah,
Like I know or what are you trying to prove?
yeah,
Like what are you gonna get from this?
yeah,
But I've actually had a lot of um positive
yeah,
comments from guys in my
hmm,
life and on the internet actually.
yeah,
You always get those creepy guys, but
yeah,
um and women too. I've gotten both,
yeah,
but I've had a lot of guys like come up to me and be like, it's really inspiring that you're, posting your progress, and it's gotten me to go back to the gym, and same with like women in my life. And honestly, that was like a huge reason why I've continued to like post stuff
yeah,
on social media, because it's like it's so nice to like inspire other people, because where I've been inspired by people doing the same, now I'm kind of handing off the torch and I can inspire other people and motivate people to, find their fitness goals and kind of what they want, and yeah, so
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more because honestly, I mean, one of the reasons why when I started with the health and fitness, why I like to focus on women. I mean, I've had probably about like 6 guys on here, but with the women I love to, first of all, it's a lot easier to talk to women about like working out, whereas guys, it's basically dude, how much you lift? That's basically, and then that conversation, that's like the whole thing where it's so much easier. But secondly, because like in society, if you were to see a muscular woman, walking down the street, for a lot of people that just they're not able to focus off the muscles because I mean it's just such a rare sight that a lot of people don't see. So I love to have, the women come on and share their stories just so people realize that like, hey, they're just normal people just like you and me, because a lot of times they're not able, like I said, to look past the muscle and realize that there's a real person, deep down here, where then once they come on and share their story, everyone's like, hey, they're just a normal person just like you and me, and they may work out a little bit more and they may have a little more muscle than me, but hey, just the same normal person. So that's why I love having people come on and share their stories. But my favorite question to ask, again, this is a multi-million-dollar idea for anyone out there listening, but when it comes to clothes for fit women, your clothing options can be limited. I always love to say, and you should probably know this better, but when you have big broad shoulders or big nice shoulders, dresses sometimes aren't your best friend. Jeans are another thing that we hear of all the time because you're supposed to have the bigger-ish lower body and the small waist. What have been
Mhm.
some ways you've sort of compensated for the fact that your clothing options can be limited?
It's been an experiment to figure out, but so I've always kind of struggled with like, kind of like a heavier bottom. But for me, I've always like I have not been graced by, the universe to have a very large, chest in that
Yep.
way. So like I've always like, wearing things with cleavage was never like a huge thing for me anyway, because it's not like I had much. But when I started like developing more shoulder, like my delts and even like, my pecs and stuff like that, I found like shirts that actually like come up to your neck and cut off here to be super flattering. And I've like just started like experimenting with things that like not only looked good on me and my body type, but that made me feel confident. So yeah, definitely like high-waisted jeans always are nice. Yeah, like dresses, like I don't care. I love wearing dresses and like I'll wear whatever. But essentially for me, it's like what I feel comfortable in and like what I feel confident in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It is a big struggle for a lot of our guests on. So anyone, if you're coming up with a line or anything like that, definitely let me know and I'll help them promote it, because I have so many guests in here that'd be more than willing to buy it. But now, being a nurse, at what point in your life did you decide that you wanted to be a nurse? Was that something that you always wanted to do?
actually, okay, so like take your kid to work day. So my
Yes.
dad, he's retired now, but he was an X-ray ultrasound technician, and he actually, so I was with him, and he had to go into this work meeting, so he like handed me off to the nurses, and I just saw what they were doing, and I was like, yeah, I totally want to do this, because originally I wanted to be a vet,
Mhm.
and realized I don't like seeing animals in pain, and I
I
can't
yeah.
deal with it.
I would do that if it wasn't for seeing that, because yeah, I'm one of those people where I would lose control like if I ever saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, so but then with people, it's like not that I like seeing people in pain,
Yeah.
but it's
It's
like
it's easier, yeah.
I can look past that and focus on the recovery and
Mhm.
focus on like, my just like I can focus on the critical thinking aspect of it and things like that. But yeah, like for nursing, like I kind of knew in high school, and then I actually like, like in for us over in Canada, once you get to grade 11 and 12, that's when you start kind of picking classes like that
Oh, wow.
will like pretty much meet your recommendations for university, and that's how, or college, like so for me, like I knew I had to have like x amount of science classes, x amount of math classes, so I knew right from there I was like setting up my future for nursing school. And yeah.
I am surprised though. We are talking about Canada, and you have not said A this entire time, so I am shocked by that. But I'm great. We had one guy that came on. He was from Saskatchewan, and it was A every two sentences, and I was like, God, this is awesome. I had a brother, so he was a professional baseball player. During college he went up to Kelowna for a summer to go play baseball for one of their teams, and then we even asked him, he's like, how many times did he say? And he goes, you would never believe what it's like there. It's like he's like it's every single sentence almost, but he goes, but I loved it. But yeah, so I love having our Canadian guests on, and I do have to ask. So are you in the area of Canada where they put milk in bags?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I have some in my fridge.
I never understood that. That's my favorite question to ask all the Canadians that we have on. Is just it's just so foreign to a lot of Americans. But I was shocked. So every Monday when I get home from work, I go home and I get a bag of seeds, sunflower seeds to have. That's my little treat for starting the week off. And I
Yeah.
was looking in the milk section, and down below, like in the very very corner, they had the bags in there, and I was gonna go up to them and be like, we're not in Canada. What is this? But yeah, so
Yeah.
I saw that now, and I was like, wow, that is weird. So yeah, I always love asking that. But also, I love asking the nurses that we have on the show, because a lot of it, one of the biggest excuses that I hear, at least, and a lot of the personal trainers that I have on here, is that, oh, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough, I can't to like adapt to more healthy and fit lifestyle. Nurses sometimes work, like the big long, very long shifts, and you're still able to find time to work out. So I always use that as an example. But also being a nurse, I mean, you deal with a lot of people that have been dealt a rough hand in life, a lot of people that haven't taken care of themselves. How much more motivation does that give you in the gym, just realizing that I am very, very lucky to be as strong and healthy as I am, and to have that motivation? Does that really add an extra amount of drive to you when you're working out?
I would say in ways, yes, because when you look at people who have disabilities, or whether it's something they've had since birth or something they've acquired with another illness or disease, it really does make you think, it makes you reflect on your life and what you're doing, and how you're treating your body. And even like things like heart disease or diabetes, things like that, that are like many preventable, for the most part. And it's like you kind of sit there and think, well, what am I doing in my life to prevent these, these diseases or these illnesses? You know what I mean? So definitely, and like getting back into health and fitness, I know right now, like it's booming. Everyone's talking about what's the best and all these diets and everything like that. But I think sometimes people forget why, what is their why? Because everyone's is different. But, for me, my why isn't, 100%, I'd be lying if I said, oh, it's just to be healthy. Like a big part of it is to be healthy, but another part of it too is just my experience with body dysmorphia and feeling confident in myself and struggling with having a low metabolism and slow metabolism, sorry, and things like that. So, whereas other people's reason is because they want to prevent, maybe their doctor said, yeah, your cholesterol's really high, you need to, or you are on the path of having like, high blood pressure, hypertension, like heart disease, things like that. So everyone's is different. So definitely like having the nursing background kind of helps kind of fit the puzzle together sometimes. But I would say for the most part that every day, even outside of fitness, just my everyday life, being in nursing, like makes you be very, like, you're really appreciative of everything, whether it's even the support you have from your family, even like having family around, having supportive partners, things like that. It's crazy, when you start, when you deal with people all the time, you look at their lives, and then it's only natural to human to compare. And yeah.
I mean, just it's so inspiring to hear that. But now we go to our audience favorite, my personal favorite part of the podcast, as we start to wrap things up here. Where I'm going to ask Cassidy about a dozen or so health and fitness and vocalist questions. I'll include one or two of those in there, and we'll see how our answers stack up to all the other guests that we've had on. So for our first question, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
Ooh, that's a good one. Honestly, like, not like, I know I said Linkin Park earlier, but I want to hold on. Let me like check my Spotify really quick,
No
because
worries.
I just recently um and I also been listening to a playlist called Heavy Queens. So it's pretty much like anywhere, between your uh like there's like Within Temptation on here, there's like Amarantha, there's a lot of stuff. Okay, but for Linkin Park, I would say I recently started listening to, what album is it called? Oh, hold on. I even like downloaded it because it was like one of those things where I didn't even realize how good of a album it was. It was Reanimation. I like didn't realize how much I love Reanimation, and because I'd like listened to a couple songs before, but I've been like really into that lately. And then obviously because like listening to Linkin Park, it kind of like brought me back to also listening to some Breaking Benjamin and like Avenged Sevenfold and all that stuff. But
Yeah, I mean,
I would
yeah,
say like any song from Reanimation right now is like on my top.
yeah. Though I mean, those are all just great, great songs. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could work out with any celebrity, who would it be?
Ooh, Like, is this like a fitness celebrity or like anyone?
It could be really any celebrity. It could be a movie celebrity. So if you could work out with, I could say, yeah, like any type of celebrity, who would it be?
Um, I would say like for me, lately I've been like I'm not a big like movie TV person, so like celebrities like to me I like kind of look at them as just regular
Yep.
people. Um, but like people who've inspired me like right now like I would say I'd love to work out with I don't know if you're familiar with the YouTuber Jeff Nippard and he
Yep.
has a girlfriend, her name's Stephanie Buttermore.
Mhm.
They have been like amazing to watch and I've learned so much from them. So and I know Jeff's Canadian, so it'd be cool. Like he's in British Columbia, but I would say working out with them would be like super fun.
Yeah, that would be yeah. I follow both of them. Yeah, and they are super. I mean, yeah, that would be definitely a great experience. But now, what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
Egg whites.
Egg whites. Hmm.
Egg whites all the time, all day, every day. Egg whites. I need.
Yeah, yeah, we get egg whites. I mean, that's our second most popular answer. The most surprising answer I would say though is that I've gotten a decent amount of times is mustard because for all these bodybuilders, I mean, it's zero in fat,
Oh,
zero in calories, so they put it on their chicken.
yeah.
And I always say, if you have to put mustard on your
Mustard or
chicken,
Frank's.
yeah, I always have to
Mustard or
say if you have
Frank's.
to put mustard on your chicken, you might want to have to reevaluate your life. I'm not a
I do.
mustard guy.
I put
Yeah.
mustard and Frank's are like your
Uh-huh.
freebies. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's kind of what you
Yeah,
get.
I know, but mustard is very, very good for you. I mean, I have learned that, but I switched to Team Ketchup when I was about 9 years old. So, but yeah, I understand that mustard is. I mean, if only they could make ketchup like that. If they could put like zero
Oh, I
calories and
wish.
zero
Yeah,
fat.
I was a big ketchup person. It would be
Yeah.
like I would pretty much put more ketchup. Like I'd have the pile of ketchup would be bigger than the amount of food that I had to go with it. So
Well,
it would
yeah. Yep.
be crappy to have to like cut ketchup out of my life. It was devastating.
Here's how you can tell that I'm from the Midwest part of the United States is that when I was young, my parents, I always had those parents who'd be like, "Hey, like I'll give you like a quarter, I'll give you 50 cents if you finish all of your vegetables or whatever." It's sort of like an allowance type thing. So I would just douse my broccoli in ketchup basically so that it would be so much ketchup that I wouldn't be able to like taste the broccoli at all basically. So I
Yeah.
mean, they offered me how to do it and I found a way how to do it, but that is probably the most Midwestern thing about me is that I used to do that. But now going on in our questionnaire, so now what is one thing that people who follow you on Instagram would be surprised to know about you if they met you in person?
Mm, probably that I'm like I mean, people on Instagram know I'm a big nerd. I'm
Mhm.
like pretty, but it's like I'm pretty like pretty goofy. Like I'm not like this, even though like I like doing my hair, I like doing my makeup, I like looking feminine, but like for the most part, I'm like I like quote vines
Yeah.
all the time.
Oh,
If
believe me,
I'm
I do
gonna
too.
get along with someone, I'll like quote a
Yeah.
vine, and if they quote it back,
Yeah.
or they finish it off, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay,
I do the
yeah,
watch your profanity vine all the time too.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm not really graceful. I'm like pretty chill. Like I guess that would be the one thing. Like, you post a really nice selfie and your makeup's on point, but then like you meet me in person, I'm just like,
Hmm. No,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, we get that all the time. But now, what is one thing that you would change about the bodybuilding or health and fitness lifestyle, I should say, if you had the all-knowing power to do so?
Um, I guess I'm still new
Mhm.
to this, so I feel like, my ignorance to the whole bodybuilding community is still pretty significant. Like I still have so much to learn. I would say at least like I know a lot about the category I'm going into, which is bikini. I would say I would like to see more like muscle, like I or like more like more bikini girls not getting flack for being a little bit more muscular because it's like I find that there's a gap between bikini
And
and
figure.
figure.
Yep.
And it's like I don't think it's healthy for them to promote girls just going on there and looking as thin as possible. I think that there should still be some sort of, you know, muscle definition. I know that there has been changes, like especially now that with Canada we're doing the CPA, and like there's been a difference between what it was previous, which I think was the ONA. I'm not 100% sure, but my coach was actually him and I were talking about that. It's just like for me anyway, like I know like cuz struggling, with me like we didn't know if I was going to be bikini or figure and it's like I want to stay in bikini, but it's at a point where it just sucks when you're like, okay, well, you have to stop building muscle now. Like that's so crappy, you know, to have to like be told like you have to stop somewhere, you know. But I also don't want to get, you know, I can't really right now with the amount of time get as big as figures. So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, and then for like the fitness part of it is just like, you know, people focus, you know, find their goals, their own individual goals and their needs and what they, you know, want to accomplish as opposed to just basing it off of other people all the time.
Yeah,
So,
that's definitely a huge one for me. But now we go to some of our fun questions. So what was the last TV show you binge watched?
oh, The Office.
Love it. Favorite character?
Okay. Okay. I know like a lot of people say Dwight, but I freaking love Dwight.
Hmm.
He's so good. And like, but like Michael
Yeah.
too. Michael's great. It's really hard in like the last season when Michael's not there.
Hmm.
Don't get me wrong, Andy was
Hmm.
fun, but Michael Scott's just
So
great.
my favorite minor character though, and he's probably my second favorite character. I love Creed.
Oh, Creed's good.
Just
Creed's
because
awesome.
I mean he's one of those weird enigmas where like yeah just the way he is like yeah I Creed yeah when me and my friends that were in I was in high school at the time and we would talk about The Office and the one time where at the end of the episode you realize that Creed was going to be the manager for like the next episode at least I got so excited because I was like oh my god and then yeah it didn't disappoint at all. But
Yeah.
now what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Mm. I'm gonna have to go ahead and say an anime. Is actually Full Metal Alchemist. Like hands down favorite. Like nothing has ever topped that for me. And it's actually like when people want to get into anime or ask me, I always, you know, direct them in like the Full Metal Alchemist bracket. I'm like, you have to see this. And it was actually before my husband and I got married, we had these conditions and his was I had to like get into playing a Blizzard game because he's big into Blizzard. His work is heavily tied with Blizzard. And so we played Diablo together and I loved it. And then for me, it was you need to watch Full Metal Alchemist, and we did, and he loved it, and yeah. So,
That's awesome. So now what is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy?
mm, hmm, guilty pleasure movie. I I don't know if I really have a guilty pleasure movie. I guess I'd say like, I mean, I always love romantic comedies. Like
Yes.
I'm kind of a little bit typical on that, where you're just like, this would never happen. But like, actually, this Christmas I've seen Love Actually before,
Yep.
but I rewatched it recently, and I was like, this is a pretty decent movie. Yeah.
So my guilty pleasure movie, all of my guy friends again, close your ears. You never heard this from me, but Princess Bride.
Oh, Princess
Yeah.
Bride's so good.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where I've seen it so many times. I mean, I can quote most of it, and I mean, it's one of those movies where you know you're flicking on the through the TV and you see it on, you stop whatever you're doing, and no matter what part of the movie it's at, you finish watching it. I mean, so I'll give an example. So I was writing my thesis paper in college, and that movie came on, and I stopped my thesis paper for 2 hours to watch it. And if that isn't dedication, you know, I don't know what is.
Yeah,
That was probably one of the hardest things I've had to do. But
that's
yeah,
so cool.
Princess Bride. Again, all my guy friends, I'll never admit that in person. You'll just if you listen to the podcast, you'll know. But now, out of all of the artists that have ever lived or performed in music, I asked this to all my bands or musicians that I have on. If you could perform live with any artist, who would it be?
Amy Lee from Evanescence.
Yep.
She's I saw her live. I've waited 10 years to see her live, and I finally saw her, and she was with Lindsey Sterling, and her voice, like I'm getting shivers just thinking. It was yeah, she's insane. She's like I like when people come and say like, "Oh, you kind of sound like Amy Lee." It's because I like practice her songs grow like in high school and like you know trying to like belt like her and like yeah, I would say the reason why I can hit those notes and I can belt is because of her.
Mhm.
So she's a huge like vocal inspiration for me.
Yeah, I mean, and being Canadian, you're gonna appreciate this. So one of my favorite artists, the only artist that I've ever seen in concert, I've seen him 3 times, Brian Adams.
Oh, Brian
Yeah.
Adams.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen him whenever he comes to Minnesota. I always see him. I mean, I love his music. I really got into it when I was young. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, and now for my final band question, if you could perform at any venue on the planet, where would you like to perform?
Ooh. That's tough.
Hmm.
I would say probably somewhere where I'd want to just go visit anyway. So like my answer would be either somewhere around in Europe.
Mhm.
But then the other part of me would be like, oh, it'd be really cool to go and tour in like Asia, like or like, Japan or China, because like man, the fans over there are like dedicated.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you see like I'll watch like my favorite bands tour and they'll do like Japan and everything like that. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy. So I would say like maybe somewhere in Japan would be cool because then you can like kind of like tour after and like kind of be a tourist a little bit. So and it'd just be really cool to like see your music reach a whole other part of the world, you know?
Mine is the Slane Castle in Ireland, where they have it's that
Oh, yeah.
yeah. I mean that would be great. But now actually I realize that I'm missing a question that I usually ask my musicians. So I always love to ask too. Out of all the songs that have ever been written in the history of music, what is one song that you wish you had personally come up with yourself?
Hmm. I'd have to say, it's hard. Oh, I have a couple. There's a couple. I really like House of the Rising Sun. That's like
That's
one of my go-tos. Um, and you know what? Another band that I was never like super into growing up, but I kind of realized how like talented the artist is or the singer is like even the song like I'll Follow You Into the Dark by Death Cab is like the lyrics are just so they're like the metaphors and everything. Like I love metaphors in music and in lyrics and yeah, like probably like that song's huge and like I was listening to it the other day and I was like, man, so clever, lyrics are super clever. But I like old time one, I'd say like maybe House of the Rising Sun.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, for me, I would come up with the happy birthday song and then
Oh,
I would
terrible.
copyright it. So every time someone sings it, they have to pay a little bit of royalty. And I just cannot imagine how much money I would have made up. And I mean, every day you'd make, thousands of dollars on so yeah, that would be, and I could just sit
That's
back
why
and
you can't. That's why you can't sing it in restaurants
I know,
anymore.
sit
I was a
back and
waitress for
relax and
6 years.
yep. Oh, you can't sing it at restaurants anymore?
No, you're not supposed
Oh,
to, especially if you're working for a chain.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
wow. Yeah.
for
That's
that reason.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, I can understand that. But now for our last question, in the questionnaire, if you could go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give her?
I would tell her, I would tell her to rely on the people in her life more, to not be afraid to open up about your insecurities and your doubts, and to listen to the people who love you because, as much as you think that you know best, like the people who love you want what's best for you too. Um, and I would tell her to love herself more.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I mean that's definitely some great advice. And now before we wrap things up here, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
100%. My amazing husband Jordan, who's always there for me and supporting me. And one thing I just want to mention, like bodybuilding is a huge commitment, and if you're in a relationship, it's hard. You are making huge time sacrifices all the time. So when you think that you have it hard, just remember your partner has it equally as hard as you because so I'm so appreciative of him being supportive and encouraging and patient with me. My dad, because he's like helping me right now with like he's like supporting me for coaching. My coach Adam, he's awesome and we're making such good progress. Also back shout out to Ashley because I know she gave me a shout out in hers. Um, because she's, a huge motivation, inspiration to me. Um, Man, yeah, I guess just like those are kind of like the core people for me right now.
Absolutely. And again, you guys, check out Cassidy. Follow her on Instagram down below. I'll leave a link to her YouTube channel too if you guys want to see some of her singing too. I highly, highly recommend that. And again, we cannot thank you enough for coming on the show and just sharing your story. I mean, you are just so inspiring and keep doing what you're doing. And honestly, we wish you nothing but the best in your first competition. I mean, I honestly think that you're going to do great. And again, you guys, Cassidy, thank you so much. I'll leave all of her links down below. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.